That was another hairdo, a blues in the key of D on the trumpet. This tutorial will concentrate on the first two bars of the blues, the D7 to G7, a bar apiece, and on the 1-6-2-5, D7 to B7, or B minor 7, to E minor 7, to A7, 2 beats apiece. When I'm playing over turnaround at the end of a blues, or the first few bars of the blues, the two dominant chords, one a fourth higher than the other, most likely I am not thinking of every chord change unless I'm making a conscious effort of it. So for instance, over the first 4 bars of the blues at a fast pace, something like this would be cumbersome. I would do something similar to this and use the last 3 notes of the D7 and G7 motifs. Or I might just think of D7 for 3 bars. Or possibly D major. So you see, often I am not thinking of each chord change literally. This is part of what makes jazz so difficult and amazing. There is a lot of feeling, listening, exploration, and discovery involved. Now I'd like to show you how I group my thoughts to fit over the blues. This example in Figure 5 shows me using a C sharp, the major 7th, over a D7. In D7, the flat 7th is a C natural, and yet using the C sharp seems like the right choice to me. No one taught me this, it's just something you learn to hear. This is not to say that you should always use the major 7th over a dominant chord, which contains the flat 7th. It works in this particular case because it feels and sounds correct. Here's an example in Figure 6a where I would use the flat 7th, the note F natural, over a G7, and the major 7th is not a good fit. If someone played the phrase in 6a this way, over the G7, using an F sharp, the major 7th, in place of the F natural, the flat 7th, it would sound strange to me in this case. Jazz is not an exact science, which is what makes it so interesting and is partially why there are so many different styles and genres in jazz. From Charlie Parker to Eric Dolphy, Clifford Brown to Don Cherry, the differences in styles in modern jazz are astounding and beautiful. There really is something for everyone. Here are some of the turnarounds from my book, A Lyrical Approach to Jazz Improvisation, that were used in the solo at the beginning of this video. The chords on top are what is played on the piano over each 2 beats to fit this progression. Underneath is how I break down the line in my mind when I play it. So before I had this line committed to memory, I would think D to E flat to F. I don't even think about it now as it is committed to muscle memory. So as I perform these lines without conscious effort, it allows me to change them to fit the tune and the situation so I am truly improvising and not playing by rote. You may notice little differences in the lines as they are written in my book compared to the way I play them over the solo in another hairdo. This is because I may start the line on another beat or change some of the notes to suit my purpose or particular mood at the time. Again, the chords on top are what would be played on the piano over each two beats to fit this progression. However, the notes from the B7 altered through the E augmented 7th sharp 9 are all in the E flat Lydian augmented scale seen here. And it's easier for me to think of this as a line involved with just one scale, the E flat Lydian augmented or B7 altered. The same scale but different roots. Instead of a line going from B7 to E7 and then a diminished line ending on the root of A7. Number 1 is pretty obvious, playing the 3rd, 5th, and 3rd of D major to the 1, 2, 3, and 5 of F7, and then the second inversions of E minor and E flat major, having the 5th in the bass, and back to 5, 3, 4, 5 of D major. There are lots of chord tones here in this beautiful line. This is a line that is not in my book, but instead fits over the turnaround at the end of a song, Lady Bird. Here's Lady Bird in concert key, and the turnaround I am speaking about. Though this is an F sharp minor on the trumpet, I choose to think of the first chord during soloing as a D7. So, this is D going to F7 dominant, which naturally resolves to B flat major, and then up a 4th to E flat 7 on a B flat instrument. Here, I am thinking of D to C minor to F to simplify things. I used this line at the very beginning of the blues solo over the D7 to G7 in the front of the blues, and also over the turnaround at the end of the blues to show some of these lines are interchangeable. In other words, some of these lines could be used at the beginning of the blues or the end of the blues. One thing I'd like to mention, even though a 1-6-2-5 is often interchangeable with a 3-6-2-5, I am unlikely to play a line based on a 3-6-2-5 over the first two dominant chords of the blues. In this example, the D7 to G7. It is much more likely that I would play a line that spells out the one chord first, the D7 in this case. Thanks for watching. This concludes the lesson on using turnarounds over the blues. So you can see that grouping chord changes together and to think of melodic ways to go through these changes could be efficient and advantageous to a soloist. The advantage of thinking this way is I am not thinking note by note, but in coherent, melodic phrases. If you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to ask in the comments section below. Also, feel free to subscribe to my channel for updates on my newest jazz video lessons.